All right, Brad, we are back on Thompson to Clark.
Yeah.
What's going on?
The dryness, the heat, all that's everywhere, right? If you're listening to this, you're probably in the Bay Area. You're
Yes.
probably Reno, Northern Nevada, Central California, Northern California. It's hot everywhere,
Oh my
man.
gosh.
It's everybody's baking.
Okay, what's the hottest that you've seen from friends of yours who are complaining about the heat?
113, I think. That's
One
the highest. Yeah.
one of my coworkers, she lives in the Sacramento area.
Oh God.
117 today.
Wow. And so when I used to go up to Chico back in the day, we had, like 108, 109 sometimes, but up there it's so green and so moist that it was like it would choke you because of the humidity. So you guys have that in the Bay Area. So you have the humidity to make it worse. The thing about us, I'm trying to find our current humidity, because when Northern Nevada in the Reno area, we're the high desert, so it's dry. Our humidity right now is 14%.
Mm,
So that's our humidity, and that's low. And that's because if you see behind me, we've got clouds rolling in, we've got thunderstorms happening. So if all
yeah.
of a sudden I'm not here, it's because we lost power.
That would be the worst show, just me talking
Yeah.
about this Phillies series by myself.
I'll call in. I can call in because I'll
There,
have power on my phone. But
there
yeah.
you go. So the hottest that I've seen is 117, like I said.
Yeah.
And somebody, I was talking to somebody, and I said that was how hot it was, and he said, "Does it even get that hot in Death Valley?" Which kind of took me off guard.
I think it does. I believe it does. I drove through Death Valley down to Vegas a few months back. Vegas, we had 108, something like that one day.
Mhm.
And then driving through Death Valley, it was a good 102, 103, but it does get up there. And I can't even imagine. Well, let's take a look. Let's see. And it's probably not going to be like that right now, because it's kind of strange. This summer, I've been looking in Vegas, has been cooler than normal. Oh, it's 122 in Death Valley right now. So
Okay.
there,
Okay.
there you go.
Um.
And it's going to
So,
be 123 tomorrow.
geez. So hopefully everybody is finding ways to stay as cool as possible, and also to stay sane. That's
Yeah.
the other thing, is the heat
Yeah.
kind of makes people cranky, and there's no judgments here. I get it. It
Oh,
sucks.
yeah.
But yeah, I was thinking, man, I need to throw on my AC, but in California, we're getting these updates, and some of it through my own next door website. Uh, they don't want you to, well, unfortunately, from 4 to 9, they want you to use as least amount of electricity as possible. And I say that as I got lights here so that we can record this podcast. But they also said try and keep your house at like 78, because everyone's just cranking on the AC. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, like I don't want to dial up the AC. So if I get a little sweaty, that's just because it's hot.
Well, it's funny. We open all the windows because in the morning here in Reno, you could wake up in the morning, it could be like 59. So you open all the windows and just get that nice cool air.
Yeah.
But then it shoots up, and then all of a sudden by 10 o'clock in the morning, it's 90. So the heat starts pouring in. We don't turn on the AC until like around 1 or 2 o'clock. And by that time, the house is already 86, like in the house. So we're okay with, conserving and doing all that, because we don't keep the AC on colder than 78
Yeah.
usually at any point. So
Yeah. All right. So I guess we should probably talk about some Giants baseball, because when
Yeah,
we
sure.
last left people, the Giants were beginning a series with the Padres, and they played competitively and had some opportunities to win, but ultimately did get swept. And it's not fun, especially when San Diego comes into our house and takes 3 games. And we were getting updates from my son, Hot Take Bry, and he's just the worst luck with going to Giants games. But he did when Jock hit that moonshot, I think John Miller called it a Bonzian blast.
He did, yes.
If you pause it as the ball is going, over the foul pole, you see Brian there throwing the arm up like, yeah, in the right field, area. But then the Phillies came into town, and I meant to do this before, but I have the standings up. The Phillies came to town, and they are battling for a playoff spot. And so I'm thinking like, oh, we're going to see their best. And they're in good shape for the wild card, but it's not like they've locked anything in.
No.
If you're a Phillies fan, how frustrated are you that the Giants, who were lifeless, they'd lost 7 in a row, and in game 1 Friday night, they just put it to Philadelphia. I would have been so mad as a Phillies fan that this team just beats bumps on the Phillies, and it wasn't even close.
Well, and insult to injury, the guy managing the Giants is the guy they fired because they didn't think he had what it took to get them over the hump. And here they are now battling for that spot. Their manager right now is Rob Thompson, right? Because didn't they fire Girardi this season? Season. And that kind of lit a fire under them. So this is Rob Thompson's, not Robbie Thompson. This is Rob Thompson's kind of audition to get the job next year.
Right.
So, that's got to be. And Philly fans of any sport, they can be pretty forgiving, right? Yeah, no. I'm sure they're giving Philly radio a handful right now.
Kapler should have come out in a Santa Claus costume.
Oh my God, yes, get booed. I heard that there were a lot of Philly fans in San Francisco this weekend. Bought up some tickets, went to the game, thought, oh yeah, we're gonna watch and beat up on the Giants, beat up on Kapler. Did not happen, man.
So Giants win 13-1. We don't have to talk about the Padres stuff because, like you said, they fought hard, but ultimately the Padres, I guess if this is a podcast where you pick on Tyler Rogers, you can kind of lay blame to him for one of those games against the Padres, because I thought he gave up a knock and then a home run and then another double, I think, that scored runs. But they also couldn't get it done against Josh Hader. So in the Phillies series, though, here's the game that I really want to ask you about, because Rodon just on fire, gets double-digit strikeouts again, and then the bullpen does him so dirty.
Yeah.
Was it Brebbia who gave up a 3-run jack?
It was Brebbia. We're talking now. We're going back Sunday, right?
Yeah, Sunday.
Talking about Sunday's game. Yes, Brebbia, and it's a little bit frustrating too. Brebbia is a guy that is kind of a lock for the bullpen again next year. Had a really good season last year, but I swear I feel like every time, and when you look at his numbers, he hasn't been awful this season. But I swear every time
he's generally been pretty good. But I would love to see the numbers that show, because in some some moments are a little bit harder than others when you're using a bullpen for 4 innings. Like if he's throwing the 6th inning, that's different than when he's throwing the 8th inning. And I kind of want to see what those numbers look like when he's in higher leverage situations.
Yeah, and I think I might be able to kind of split those on Baseball Reference. Let me see. Let me look at his 2022 splits. If we look at,
I want to give him a little bit of a little bit here, because he did pitch the night before. He threw 2/3 of an inning and gave up 1 hit, which dropped the ERA to 2.60, and it was his 16th hold of the season. So he was being used on back-to-back days for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. And we've talked about too, even though it's September call up time, we're not going from 25 to 40 like we used to do in the
Yeah.
past. We're going from 26 to 28. You're just
Yeah.
adding two more guys.
Yeah.
But his seventh inning numbers, he has an ERA of 4.60, BABIP of 0.294, which I believe is the league average. I was looking at something today, and the league average is 0.291 for BABIP.
Mm.
And so he's right at the league average in the seventh inning. But then the eighth inning, his ERA is a little bit lower, but his BABIP is 0.368, so it's pretty high. And that's the majority of his innings are the seventh and the eighth. He's pitched in 29 of his innings this year. So from the seventh through the ninth, he's pitched in 34 innings total, with an ERA of 3.71 and a BABIP of 0.320. So yeah, I feel like every time Brebbia comes in, I go, this is either going to be all or nothing. There's never like an in between, like I'm going to walk a batter and then, I'll get a ground ball double play and then I'll get out of the inning.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's like if he walks a batter or gives up a base hit, it could get ugly very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
As his stuff, from what I noticed since Colorado, was up, and in Colorado it's going to be up. That's just the way it's going to be. But since then, a lot of his stuff is just kind of hanging, belt or higher. So it is a little bit frustrating. I feel bad for the guy, but Giants fans want to walk off. We want to walk off. So as soon as it happened, I go, hey, you know what? That sets us up for this walk off in the bottom of the ninth. And
Wilmer.
Sure enough, Wilmer, we got it.
Line drive shot that doesn't probably barely gets higher than the actual fence that it went over to win the game. And that was cool because you got to see the team walk off and there was some, it looked like it was fun for a little while, at least, and they haven't seemed like they've been having fun in a while. So that was nice to see for sure.
Is that the Lewis Brinson effect?
So that I was actually wanted to talk about him, and I had no idea who this guy was before we traded for him. Now he's an older player who was a pretty big prospect many years ago. So, whenever the Giants signed those guys, and we mentioned this before, when the Giants are winning and they take a chance on a guy like that, you're like, oh man, Zadie, smart guy there on the margins. And then when they're losing, it's like, come on, dude. Again, can't we just get someone who we've heard of before? But yeah, Brinson, he's a big dude.
Yeah, he is a big guy. He was a 29th overall pick in 2012. So when the Giants were winning their second World Series of the three, Brinson was drafted, and he was going to be he was a big prospect, first rounder. Texas Rangers took him. I remember, I think when he was with Florida, because we play a lot of fantasy baseball, so we're always looking at the, this year, what is it, Gunnar Henderson, and all those guys who were coming up. So I remember that and I don't remember what year it was, but whatever year it was that he came up, I grabbed him. I thought, oh, this guy's going to be great. He hit 199 on the season. Can't even remember if he hit double-digit home runs that year. I actually got his numbers here. Let's see. So his real rookie season, because in 2017, so 5 years after being drafted, he came up with Milwaukee, hit 106 in 47 at bats, and then was traded to Miami. So 24 years old, 2018. You can call it a full season. It's the most games he's ever played in the majors in one season. He played 109 games that year, 382 at bats, $199. So not even Mendoza line. 120 strikeouts and 382 at bats. Hit 11 home runs, so double-digit home runs. So the power's always been there, and that's kind of what they talked about when we were able to trade for him. And here's the whole thing too. It's after the trade deadline. There are no more waiver wire trades like there used to be back in the day under the new CBA. That doesn't exist. So in order now to trade for somebody after the trade deadline, it has to be a minor league player. You can't be trading 40-man roster guys unless they're DFA'd, pass through waivers, end up in your AAA, and they're truly a minor league guy. Then you can go ahead and trade. He was on a minor league contract, or I think it might actually have to be on a minor league contract. So he was on a minor league contract, and the Giants were able to trade for him for just cash considerations.
Right.
And he's had 11 at bats now for the Giants. Just kind of tearing it up. He's got a fun attitude. Looks like he's having a good time. Him and after his second home run, he was sitting and walking past. He kept walking past B-Craw, and B-Craw, you could see, was kind of prodding him a little bit with something, and they were laughing. So they're having a good time. You know, this team is having a good time again. They're in Los Angeles, a place they haven't won this year. To see them go in there and take game one of a 3-game series against the juggernaut Dodgers.
Oh yeah.
And they're going to win the division. Obviously, the Dodgers are going to win the division. It's just prolonged at this point. I think their magic number is 8 right now. So there's no way that they can clinch playing against the Giants, which is good. You know, the Giants they'll get out of town before any of that happens. But yeah, watching Brinson, like I said, he is a big dude. What are his measurements? He's 6'5", 212. 6'5" outfielder.
Yeah, he
covers a
you
lot
know
of
who
ground.
he he looked a little bit like, and this player comes up because we play the MLB the show. O'Neal Cruz is also like a giant tall guy, and when he stands at the plate, you're like, geez, he's so tall. That's what I thought with him. It was like, man, he's like almost as tall as O'Neal Cruz, and it just looks weird because you don't necessarily see those tall guys like an Aaron Judge unless there's just these giant power hitters. So
yeah, and also you got to figure too, O'Neal Cruz is that big and he plays shortstop, which is amazing. And Marco Luciano is a tall guy, kind of a big guy, and he's our shortstop of the future. And there's still talk of will he end up playing third base? Will he be converted to the outfield? But you're starting to see taller and taller position players get chances to be out there. And again, if you can hit for power, which obviously we've seen he can do that, he also strikes out. That's just the way that's going to be. But happy to have him on the team. I'm excited. I know a lot of fans are just kind of like, well, we took old prospect, this guy who, I mean, he's 28 years old. Still has plenty of time to try to shine. Did I get his age right? Oh, can't find it, of course. 28. Yeah. So he's 28 years old right now. So there's still plenty of time to grow, plenty of time to shine. He is arbitration eligible, I think, for the first time next year. So the Giants have some control. I think they would have to get him on the 40-man. He's probably going to be Rule 5 eligible during the offseason. And he's on the 40-man right now. They're going to have to keep him on the 40-man in the offseason. So again, a lot of guys right now are just kind of getting that chance to shine, getting a little bit of an audition. So it's a fun. We talked about it last week. You can look at this season, be a grumpy fan, and say, "Oh, this team won 107 games last year, and they're, what are they doing? Zadie doesn't know what he's doing, and Kapler doesn't fire them all." Or you could look at it and say, "Well, they won 107 games last year. They could do it again." Zadie doesn't like to make, he likes consistency, so Kapler's probably going to be around. And then you could just look at all these guys being auditioned and say, well, this is what we could have next year, and build on that through free agency and a couple of call-ups.
All right, before we get to our player of the week, because we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about this player, let's talk about what we're drinking. And on a very, very hot day where, and look, we especially in California, people say, "Oh gosh, can't complain about the weather," and agreed. 90% of the time, can't complain about the weather. But on a day like this where it's sort of unexpected, what did you go to for like to I don't know. I don't even think I chose something to stay cool. I just kind of chose something where I was like, this is just what I'm feeling today.
Yeah, so I was just outside with the tree guy. We've got a tree issue. So I was standing out there in the 103 or 102, and it was lots of wind. So my throat got a little dried up. So I'm starting with the hot mug of water. I've
Yeah.
got
So you can
some
talk.
hot water. Yeah, exactly. But I like a nice hot day. Sometimes I'll go for the tequila and the grapefruit Zevia. I was going to I made a lemon lime and a lemon lime Zevia and tequila drink over the weekend, and that was very good. But today I went for the Zevia ginger ale and the budget Kentucky Best whiskey from Trader Joe's.
There you
Can't
go.
go wrong with that.
No, not at all.
It's aged 4 years, 40%, so it's 80 proof. And it's refreshing. It's nice and cool. So what do you got?
So, you probably buy too many bottles when you kind of forget about one.
Yeah.
And like you go into your cabinet and you're like, wait, when did I buy this? What's going on here? So I was in because I was in Chicago all weekend, and the night before I had to go to sleep early, and I'm like, oh God, how am I going to go to sleep early? I was like, have a drink. That'll kind of calm me down. Now it won't help me sleeping because generally when I drink, my deep sleep is kind of affected. But
yeah,
but I was like, I do need to kind of like, I'm not in that mode of like calming down and going to sleep until I'm closer to like 11:30 midnight. So to do that at like 9:00 because I had a 6:00 flight, I was like, oh my gosh. So I had a little bit of anxiety around that. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna have a drink. And I think I mentioned there was a Johnny Walker rye that I found that was really good. And I'm not necessarily a rye person, but I really liked it. Like, wow, this was really good. So I don't know, a couple months ago, I found another rye that I wanted to try. And the reason why, and I'm going to ask you if you know what this is, as my light just went out on me. I'll fix that in a second. When you're talking, I'll fix the light. Chill filtered. Do you know what chill filtered is? Because this rye, the reason why I bought it is because it said it was chill filtered. And I was like, oh, I want to buy it, and then I want to learn what chill filtered means.
Interesting. I don't think I've ever heard of chill filtered.
Okay, I'm going to read from the website, the Whiskey Advocate. And it spells whiskey the way that the Japanese whiskeys are spelled without the EY. It's just the SKY. So
right.
That's the website. Whiskey.
That's Advocate. Like a Scotch whiskey as well, is without an E.
Okay, it says a whiskey doesn't go from still to barrel to bottle in pristine form. Along with sediment from the barrel, chemical compounds like fatty acids, proteins, and long-chain esters are present in the final product. In whiskeys lower than about 46% ABV, these chemical compounds create a cloudiness or haze when the whiskey is chilled. The haze doesn't pose any hazards to those who drink it, but for aesthetic reasons, most distilleries choose to filter it out using a process called chill filtration. Chill filtration is performed the way it sounds by lowering the temperature of the whiskey to several degrees below freezing. At this temperature, the whiskey is still liquid, and the haze-producing compounds have clumped together. The liquid is passed through a series of filters made of materials ranging from paper to metal to crushed seashells that trap all the compounds larger than several microns. The amount of compounds and sediment removed depends on the number of filters, the speed at which the whiskey passes through them, and the pressure at which it's filtered. So this is very much a looks thing over rather than it has anything to do with the taste or whatever. So that was pretty interesting. Chill filter.
Yeah. And that comes from so like when you distill, when you brew. So when I used to brew beer, I would you would brew up the beer and you brew an ale, so it would ferment at like anywhere from 64 to 72 degrees. Kind of keep it, wrap it in blankets if it was during the winter and it was in the house, and just kind of keep it warm. But then you would cold crash it during the clarifying process. So you could actually move it to another bucket when it was done fermenting, then take that bucket and stick it in like a thing of ice. Just put ice and cold water around it, and that would crash everything, all the sediments out. So then after you bottled it and you'd pour your beer, you'd have a nice clear looking pale ale instead of cloudy. Now everybody wants cloudy and hazy when it comes to beers. They want the juicy, hazy beers. So you don't see a lot of, you don't see many clear beers unless they're lagers anymore. But can we just call it chilltration?
Yeah. Why don't they call it that?
It's marketing right there, man.
Yeah. You didn't even have a marketing degree and you came up with that.
That's right. Well, actually, I do. I have an advertising minor.
So. There you go.
There you go. I used it. All right. I'll never use it again, but that's
all right. So I have my rye with a rock, and it's chill, filtered, and also chilled because of the ice.
I like that.
But so I will say, I think I'm becoming a fan of rye.
Rye is, you know what? If you like bread, which I love bread, so if you like bread, you're gonna like rye. I mean, rye, especially just a rye on the rocks.
Yeah.
During the winter, you get that nice kind of heat to it, a little tiny spiciness to it. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the player of the week, because I think, I know who won because I looked it up, but this player was a big reason why the Giants did win those games in Philly, and he had a pretty big week, and we kind of mentioned him, so I'll tease that. We mentioned him in the Hot Take Bry game that he went to, but read off who the player of the week is.
All right, we got 3 picks. Coming in third place, last place, the player that I voted for.
Oh,
I voted for Logan Webb.
Yeah,
only because I was happy to see him get back on track, make some great pitches, get the breaking stuff working again, down around the knees, dropping to the shins, the feet. I loved what he was working with this week, so I gave him my vote. Logan Webb came in third. 2 game starts this week, 1-1 record. 11 2/3 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, a walk, 13 strikeouts in those 11 2/3, and a 2.26 FIP, which is nice and tiny and compact. And thought he pitched really well.
So to kind of we were counting last Tuesday to this Tuesday, right?
Correct. So we went Tuesday to
Monday.
Tuesday to Monday. Yeah, Tuesday. Usually we do Monday to Sunday, but since we've been doing the shows on Tuesday lately because of all kinds of other things, so we've been doing. So this week was Tuesday.
I think we'll be back next Monday, though. By the way, it was just Labor Day and stuff. Another thing I saw was that in his previous 3 starts, so he was the winning pitcher against the Dodgers last night. In his previous 3 starts, he gave up a combined 3 earned runs, and he got the loss in every single one of those starts. Gee.
Yeah. So, and that's because I think one of those games he had given up 6 earned runs. They figured out there was an error instead of a hit, and they almost all of them became unearned. So if you can give somebody antiquated stat, right? Wins, losses.
Sure.
If you can say he pitched well enough to get the win, can you give him the win? I mean, if he gave up 1 earned run and the opposing pitcher gave up 3 earned runs, but you lost 6-3, I mean, or 6-2 or whatever, can you give him the win? I mean, I think we could fix that. I think we can change that now. Say, or should be, instead of 7-6, he should be 12-4. That was quick math. It's probably totally wrong, but so yeah. Coming in second, Tyro Estrada, 15.8% of the vote, 333 average on the week, 418 WOBA, 1 home run, 4 ribbies, stolen base. So now he has 17 or 18 on the year. 15.4% walk rate. Again, another one of our unsung heroes that
Yeah.
is just, goes out there and plays ball. I think I looked today and his WAR is only 2.0 though. And I even think that's offensive WAR. His batting WAR is just 2.0, but he seems to kind of be in the middle of it whenever we look. So coming in with the player of the week win this week, Jock Peterson, an insane week. He only had 16 at bats this week, but he hit 538 with a 667 WOBA, a 1,000 BABIP, 2 home runs, 11 RBI, and 5 runs. Player of the week, Jock Peterson. The 1,000 BABIP, does that mean that every ball he hit should have been a base hit under normal circumstances?
I don't think you can you have a 1,000 BABIP?
That's what it is. That's what it was this week. According to Fangraphs, he had a 1,000 BABIP.
So I think that means that every time he put the ball in play, he got a hit. So I think the only times he made outs was when he struck out.
Yeah, you know what? I think you're right. Yeah, so that's what it is. Batting average on balls in play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he every time he put wood on the baseball, he got a hit.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And I mean, he hit 538 for the week, so it's really not that out of the ordinary. Only had 16 at bats, but yeah.
So he had 9 hits and 7 strikeouts.
Yes. I believe so.
That's amazing. I love that stat.
Yeah, well, I'd have to pull up his stats again, but yeah.
I'm so happy you pulled that up because I didn't think that would necessarily be possible, but he did get a couple of like little blooper shots like against the lefties because he hit against some lefties this week. And there was like little dunk shots over the second baseman and little bloop shots in front of the right fielder. That's awesome. What an amazing stat.
So here it is. Yep, here it is. Okay, so I was wrong. 16 plate appearances, 13 at bats because he did walk twice. I think he got hit by a pitch as well. Yeah, hit by pitch. So in 13 at bats,
7 hits.
He got 7 hits, 6 strikeouts.
Wow. I love it.
11 ribbies in his 7 hits as well. And so look, every hit counted for something.
The most memorable, and this was even in the loss, was the San Diego game, but that home run was beautiful.
Oh yeah,
especially
he's just on an absolute tear right now.
Like night games at Oracle. I always want to call it AT&T.
I know.
Night games at Oracle are tremendous. Like if you sometimes it can be cold and windy, but I remember it was during one of the first 2 World Series, and almost all the games in the World Series or even in the playoffs are in the evening. And I think it was that okay, so it was the second, sorry, it was 2012. It was the St. Louis series, and I remember before Ishikawa hit the home run, there was a camera shot of, at that time, AT&T. And I was like, how lucky are we to have this ballpark? Because it looked amazing on TV. And I've been to tons of night games. And it can look majestic at times, like if the lights and everything is sort of like perfect. And that shot, when he hit it in the evening into the water, like everything was perfect about that moment. And I was like, except that they didn't win. If they would have won, that would have been one of the best games of the season just because of the way it looked. So, it was awesome.
No, it's fantastic. I remember 2006, went to an A's Giants game in June. Ray Durham hit a 3-run shot walk-off. That was a blast. Bonds hit like number 758 or something like that. He had already passed. No, he hadn't passed the record yet. No. He was in the 600s still.
Okay.
Because this was 2006. Yeah. So he was still in the 600s. I took a picture of it and I actually have it framed in my office at work. as he's crossing home plate with the number up on there. So I'll try to get a picture of that. But I remember sitting third deck, about 6 or 7 rows back behind home plate. And you spend most of your time just kind of looking out at the bay, looking across the bay. It was a day game. It was nice and warm. It was beautiful, sitting in the sun, just having a really good time. We are blessed with a really nice ballpark. Everybody talks about Dodger Stadium. Oh, you haven't been to Dodger Stadium. I mean, that's nice, but it's old. It's not, it's a cookie cutter stadium. It is not the dimensions of Oracle. It is not the feel of Oracle. It is not the bay breeze of Oracle. You can't hit a ball in the ocean at Dodger Stadium.
Yeah.
So, I'm just comparing it with Dodger Stadium because I hate that place so much. Never been there, but I know I hate it.
The slate that we used for this show. This is why.
Yes.
So okay, I agree with you because I have been to Dodger Stadium. I haven't been to Dodger Stadium in the evening though. I imagine it's pretty great in the evening. I like Dodger Stadium, and I know that might be, maybe something that Giants fans don't want to hear. But when I did go, and this was probably, late 90s. And I thought it was awesome. It was really fun to watch a Giants Dodgers game there. Now, I wasn't fearing for my life when I went, and when both teams are good, kind of you're a little worried about that just because. But yeah, I had a good time, and it is there is a classicness to that park because it has been around for so long, and they haven't had to build a new stadium, right? And you kind of wonder, you're like, oh, at some point it's probably worth it to build something. But I think it's one of the it's like, it's not Wrigley. Wrigley has, and it's not Fenway. Like those parks have like this mystique and this historical landmark kind of thing to them. But I think as the years go by, it may get closer to those statuses. Like Dodger Stadium may become, sort of a historical landmark as well. But, I kind of hope they lose all of their games in Dodger Stadium. It's not happening this year, but
yeah. And, us Giants fans, how we are, when the Giants don't make the playoffs this year and the Dodgers make the playoffs, all we can hope for is that the Dodgers don't get out of their first round of games, and then we can gloat again and say, well, you built all that for nothing. That's what we look forward to. That's sad. We're sad this year, but that's all right.
All right, so let's talk about somebody who he's had a great season, and I think we're kind of worried. No, not even worried. Like we knew what we were getting into when he signed is Carlos Rodon.
Yeah.
My worry, because I feel like this guy is 100% an ace. And if you believe that Logan Webb is also an ace, you're like, wow, we kind of have 2 aces on this team, 2 dependable starters. Alex Webb has been tremendous. Like, so that's like 3 really good and dependable starters. And I feel like the second that Rodon goes, okay, opting out, going to try and find a 5-year deal somewhere, I think the Giants are going to lose a little bit more than maybe we would have thought when this deal happened. Because when this deal happens, we're thinking like, oh, we're going to be back in the playoffs. This guy's going to be throwing fastballs. But now that we're not, I'm worried that he leaves and we cannot fill that spot unless they find, unless Zadie does his magic and finds another short deal on somebody who maybe doesn't maximize the value. Because, Rodon should have had a 5-year deal. He should have had a 5-year, $100 million deal somewhere, but teams were a little worried about his injury history. And the guy has been lights out. He's been amazing. 157.1 innings, 120 hits, and 201 strikeouts. 11.5 strikeouts per 9. Just tremendous. And I'm like, is there a way we can bring him back? Like, I don't know. This is starting to hit me that we're not going to be able to see this guy pitch for another, after another month. And maybe this stint with the Giants is just going to be a short thing on his resume. Like, oh yeah, I pitched for the Giants in 2022.
You know what? So the money's going to be there. Rodon can make more than 22 million next year. That's what his option is for. He can pick it up himself and say, I'm just staying here for 22. But the way he's pitched this year and the way he's stayed healthy, he could probably make 30, if not a little bit more than that. The Giants have the money. They can easily do that. Okay, so I kind of put together a little bit some free agents, some arbitration guys. So next year, Belt off the books, Flores off the books. They're gonna want to bring Flores back, I'm sure. Peterson off the books. That's only $6 million, but they're probably going to want to bring him back too on a multi-year deal, maybe 2 or 3 years.
Do you think that happens, by the way?
I think that happens. I think if it comes down to, and again, it shouldn't come down to Flores or Peterson. I think they can re-sign both of them and re-sign Rodon, and continue to build from the outside as well. But if they bring back Peterson, I mean, he's probably easily worth 2 years, 18, maybe, $3 million raise next year, and then 9 for the next season. I think they could do that. And I think he'd be happy to stay in San Francisco.
But what do you think stops him from being a 12 to $16 million player? Is it because the fact that he only hits righties? Is it the defense? Because if you put his numbers,
yes and yes.
Well, because if you put his numbers up and you just look at his numbers on paper, and you're like, oh, he should fit what a team who is contending is looking for.
He should, and I think he could still get that. He could still get a $12 million deal somewhere, $15 million deal, if somebody sees him as a full-time DH, but then you'd have to be comfortable with him facing lefties.
Yeah.
And I don't think at this point of his career, you have enough of a sample size. I mean, you've got plenty of years of a sample size to say he's not going to magically start hitting lefties.
Yeah.
But what's going to keep him from coming back to San Francisco is the fact that they didn't make the playoffs this year. And he mentioned already that he's played for a division winner in every season that he's played in the majors so far, except for this year. Is that going to discourage him? I don't think so, especially if Zadie has a game plan. He came here for a reason, and it wasn't because the Giants were a lock for a playoff spot this year, because they certainly were not, even after winning 107 games. By the way, I keep talking like we're out of it. On September 1st,
you're pulling us back in. You are doing this right now.
That's right. Our playoff odds on September 1st were 0.1%, according to Fangraphs. After this 4-game winning streak, our playoff odds have shot up to 1%. So it's not over. It's not over, Giants fans. On May 13th of this year, our highest odds of making the playoffs were 79%, and they've dropped a little bit since then, but by 78%. But I think that's the only thing that's going to keep Jock Peterson from wanting to stay. I think Flores might be a lock to stay.
Interesting.
I think he's played a lot of baseball. I think he understands that he's got a good thing here in San Francisco. He's got playing time. The Giants have a lot of positions for him to kind of float around in. He makes a great DH. He crushes as a right-handed hitter. I think the Giants are probably going to want to do what they can to keep him. JD Davis is an arbitration guy next year. They probably try to get him as well. Yeah. Evan Longoria has made what was Evan Longoria's contract this year?
Let me see. I have Spot Track open, so let me see.
Okay, all right, thanks. Because I think I didn't close my page. He's making $19.67 million this year. Evan Longoria.
Yes.
His pickup next year, his option is $5 million, a paltry $5 million. I know he's going to be 37 next year, but $5 million for a guy who does what he does and hits how he hits. Why not? Right? Have a veteran presence on the books for $5 million.
Okay, but if they buy him out for $5 million, that is
Mhm.
them essentially saying, "Go find another team." If
Yes.
they didn't want to buy him out, he's coming back at 13
Oh, that's right.
million.
So the
Yeah,
difference of 8. Right, right, right.
right,
So
right.
so a difference of 8 million, which really isn't that much. Again, for a guy like Longoria, you can pay the 8 million. I think, again, veteran presence, play third base. You can kind of start to work in VR at third base. JD Davis is going to be there at third base. David VR is a guy that they kind of wanted him to play a little bit of first base the rest of the year as well, possibly some second base, and then possibly some left field. So I think they're trying to make VR a little bit of a hop around type of guy who could play a lot of positions. So yeah, I think getting Peterson and Flores back next year is kind of key to keep going. I know a lot of people want to flush this,
Yeah.
like flush this whole thing and just start all over again. That would be, to me, that would be the absolute biggest mistake
Mhm.
that they can make. Because again, the team won 107 games last year. They're a 500 club this year. I think you can continue with the pieces you have, cut off, trim off some of the fat, get some players via free agency, via trades.
Wait, you're saying
And
we're signing we're gonna get Otani?
Otani and Judge, yes. Yes. That's what I mean by building. Yes.
Yeah.
Building from the outside.
You know,
Yes.
if the Giants were able to bring Otani over, he would be the single biggest fan favorite since Tim Lincecum, and it wouldn't be close.
Yes.
That would be
He,
amazing.
he he would be a bigger Bay Area rock star than anybody in Metallica. Right? He would. I mean, he would have a following.
Oh, yeah.
I don't buy baseball jerseys of current players, but I would buy an Otani Orange Friday jersey.
Yeah,
I would get
he would
it.
make up all of us trying to make Shinjo happen. He
Oh,
would make it up.
yes, yes. Oh, poor Shiyoshi Shinjo.
And by the way,
Yeah,
I'm half Japanese, which is why I made that joke, because
yeah,
the second that Shinjo was on this team, every single Asian Giants fan that I know, we were like, "That's our guy." And
yeah,
so that just in case people, that was not meant to
yeah.
be offensive.
No, no,
Um,
no. And I loved him too. When he came here, I go, you know what? San Francisco. We had the first Asian American baseball
right,
player ever in the history of baseball.
right,
Um, so I thought for Shinjo, I go, wow, this is great. Because he started with the Mets, right? He was with the Mets, came over
yes.
the Giants, and I thought, well, this is good because he's in San Francisco, different coast. He's going to flourish. He played baseball. We'll just
You know,
leave it at that.
he would be he would be if he was in playing today, he would be Kapler's 8th and ninth inning center fielder. That's what he would do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. And speaking of that, last night was fun to watch because the Giants got out to a big lead and then went defensive. And that's the baseball that I love. So to see Kapler do that last night, I was very excited and very happy about that. I'd love to see that. And he has the health now.
Yeah.
He has the health, and Zadie's given him the pieces now to say, now you can do this. So maybe that's a taste of what we're going to get a little bit more of next year.
So what did you think of them taking David VR out of the game after he hit the home run?
I thought that was fine. Again, looking at articles today and kind of at first I was like, wow, September,
Yeah.
but it's the Dodgers.
Right.
And Webb, like an article I read, I can't remember. I think it might have been the Athletic, and it might have been Baggerly. If I'm wrong on this, correct me. But I think he was talking about how Webb deserves this at this
Yes.
point. It's
It was clear.
September.
It was clearly about, like I mentioned that Webb had only given up 3 earned runs in the previous 3.
Yeah.
stints, and he had all 3 losses. So I mean, it was clear that that's what they were going for. And you're right, the Dodgers.
Yeah.
It means they really want to beat this team because if anything, the season's been a bit of a frustrating season, but beating the Dodgers always means something.
And they were what, 0-8 in Dodger Stadium coming into this series. So you
Yeah.
don't want to leave there getting swept in 3 and end up 0-11 on the season in Dodger Stadium. That's embarrassing for your rival. So pulling the strings the way he did last night, I liked it. It felt like it felt like late 90s, early 2000s managing where, okay, we got a lead. Let's go defensive now. Let's make some plays. And it paid off big time. There were 3 great plays in the game. So that last play of the game, that was a little bit frightening.
Did you think Tyro was throwing that thing in the dugout? Because I did.
I was pretty sure it was not going to reach Flores. Yes, I was a little bit frightened.
And what about that stretch from Flores? The guy does not move well, but that was a nice stretch there.
That's what I'm telling you. He got to keep him around next year because he can play some positions. He will make, when he gets to the ball, he will make some plays, but
And it was actually Longoria who made the throwing error, right? Was he the one that made the throwing error?
Yes. Yeah.
All right, let's get to this week and the rest of this week since we already are on Tuesday. This is a kind of an insane week if you look at the schedule.
It's crazy.
So as we are recording, the Giants play the Dodgers in about an hour. And then tomorrow they have a day game. So Wednesday, if you're listening to this Wednesday morning, Wednesday afternoon, 1:10, and then they got to go all the way to Milwaukee and play a double header. 2 games, the only day that they're going to be in Milwaukee, and then they go and play the Cubs for 3 at Chicago. Wacky scheduling.
That's the lockout.
Yes. And the thing about, I think if the Giants were like independent, like even in the wild card race, I'd be looking at this going like, oh man, this is so unfair. But, they're like 7.5 games behind in the 3rd wild card spot. I'm like, I don't know. As long as they have, it's going to be kind of, I'm interested to see how Kapler handles those 2 games. I imagine if any of those 2 games kind of get out of the way for him, we may see a position player pitching, but because he's gonna want to, like, I'm not saying that they're gonna throw away those Milwaukee games because they owe it to the teams who Milwaukee is battling for the wild card to try and win those games, but I think going to Chicago, there's also going to be a wanting to play well because you go to Wrigley Field, you got all these young players who may have never, they dream to play in Wrigley Field. You want to show in that series, and I don't know if they're going to give away 2 games, but I kind of wonder if you're looking at the importance of the next 7 games, those 2 Brewers games may be the 2 least important games of the rest of the week.
Yeah, and you're right, because they've got the Chicago games, and then they come home for Atlanta and the Dodgers. So I mean, it's and this is sandwiched in between sweeping the Phillies and then playing the Dodgers and possibly sweeping the Dodgers. Right? I'm just gonna talk that into existence. So as a Giants Rams fan, Thursday is going to be wacky for me because got a Giants doubleheader and a Rams home opener, NFL opener on Thursday night against the Bills, a possible Super Bowl preview. That should be pretty insane. This is our last show before football season.
Okay, so stay with me on this. We'll stay on this football thing. We're mostly done with the actual baseball part of the podcast. The Rams are the underdog.
Yeah.
What's
Rams
going on?
Underdog at home.
What is going on?
One of their receivers is hurt. So they're down to 2 receivers and 2 rookies. 2 receivers, a second-year player who has dropped some footballs in Ben Skowron, or Skowronek from Notre Dame. But last year, I don't know if you remember the NFC Championship game, he dropped that wide open touchdown against the Niners.
That was
So
one of my
he's their
favorite plays of the whole game.
yeah, exactly. So he's their third receiver, and behind that, you've got Tutu Atwell, who was a rookie last year, who got hurt, and he's tiny. I think the guy's smaller than me. And then you've got another rookie in McCutcheon this year.
Mhm.
So I think they're, the odds makers are pretty much saying like, well, the Rams don't have all their offensive weapons, but I would still bet on Sean McVay at home in a big game to open the season. I don't care who you're playing. The Buffalo Bills, I mean, they're going to be all fired up, but they're coming across the country to open the season. And Los Angeles is probably going to be 103 degrees.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
100 degrees. So yeah, it's going to be tough.
Yeah. I was like, what? I mean, they're obviously the Bills are the hot team. Like everybody loves the Bills. But on the other end, I was kind of wondering, is some of this related to this worry about Stafford? Like, do
I don't
people
think
really
so.
like? What do you think about Stafford? Do you think he's going to be okay? Does he got a bum arm? Like, what as a Rams fan, are you worried about him at all this season?
I'm not worried about him at all. He's played through. I mean, he's seen the guy break his ribs in the middle of a game a couple of years ago for Detroit. Got up and finished the series. So
yeah,
I'm not really worried about him. He's never been the best deep ball thrower as it is. I think the Rams have a little bit more of a running game this season. They have more horses in the stable than they did last year. They almost have like a 3 running back by committee this year. And the last couple of years, they were kind of fighting just to find 2 healthy guys. So I think they're going to rely a little bit more on that. Higbee is healthy. They're tight end. Offensive line is always a question for the Rams the last couple of seasons. Whitworth retired. So, there's a lot of differences this year, but
yeah.
I'm not worried about Stafford. He's such a tough guy. He's such a gamer. Everything I've seen about the arm injury is just like they held him out of practice, held him out of all this stuff. Let's just keep it at bay. Everything's going to be fine.
By the way, who's your backup?
Yeah. The backup is, let's see, Bryce Perkins.
Is that a real guy, or is that like a Madden generated name?
Madden generated, yeah. He played for Arizona State, Arizona Western, and Virginia. But he was a lot of a lot of fun to watch. Well, no, actually, you know what? He is he? Yeah. So he was the guy who played the majority of the snaps in the preseason for the Rams. And then John Wolford is the other guy. And so I think they're holding on to 3 quarterbacks on the roster right now. So I don't even think they really have a true a backup, but Bryce Perkins is a great runner type of quarterback, a tough guy. Couldn't take him down during the preseason. So
just let Aaron Donald play quarterback. Just have him just like stand back and people try to rush at him, and he's like, "What?
Yeah, exactly."
And he just blows up, and they're like, "Okay, we're not messing with you."
Well, and that defense. I mean, they're going to be after, Josh Allen pretty much the entire game. So
yeah, that's a great Thursday night game, like to open the season.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Woo,
oh yeah, and then you got Bobby Wagner, and the Rams have Bobby Wagner at middle linebacker now. They've been struggling to find a linebacker for years, and now you've got Aaron Donald in the front. You got Bobby Wagner, and then you got Jalen Ramsey. So it's putting together an all-star defense. Other than Jalen Ramsey, though, at corner, that's a little questionable. So I can see the 2.5 point favorite spread for the Bills. I
think people are just really excited about the Bills, and I think the Bills are good, but I don't think they're going to be the world beater that a lot of people think they are.
No, I would love to see the Rams walk out of there. The Rams walk out of there with a 33-7 win.
Not me.
No, well, no, not you. But just because I think Bills fans are some of the worst. So sorry,
gosh.
Bills fans.
They're gonna, they're gonna jump off of a ladder and leg drop somebody to.
They've got their wrestling moves down, man.
Yeah. All right. So football season starts. Baseball season is ongoing. We're gonna keep doing podcasts about the Giants, and we'll figure. When the offseason is kind of closer than I think fans realize. There's like a month left, and we'll have to figure. I think some of it is we're gonna pay attention to the playoffs, and we'll talk about the playoffs as they happen. But all right, we're gonna be done. We're done here, but just want to remind folks that Brian, Hot Take Brian, I do the death lineup on this channel, and we will be back on Thursday for the live stream, and then Friday morning the podcast will be in the podcast feed. We didn't do a show last week because I was going out of town, and it was just like chaos. And I was like, you know what?
Yeah,
let's take a break. We'll be fine. We'll be back next week, and then Sunday afternoon after the Niners Bears, myself and Roderick Adams. I'm not saying this is 100% because we still have some things to figure out, but we're gonna try and do some live streams after games and just kind of get like that quick Niners, feel the temperature gauge about how the game just that was just happening. I mean, really, they really should beat the Bears, but you never know. It's in Chicago, and so we'll be back, and it's gonna be the first episode of the We Want Winners podcast, the famous quote by Mike Singletary when he forced Vern Davis to the sideline and to the locker room. We want winners. And then yeah. So we're kind of back into football. We also have the Red and Gold Standard, which is just going to be podcasts only. That will not be in our YouTube or our Facebook live stream, just podcasts. But yeah, we're BSPN. We're right smack in the middle of like where all all three of the sports just kind of combine, because the Warriors will be back in a month as well. Like, it's kind of crazy that all of the sports will have a little bit of time where, gosh, that means I'm doing 3 shows a week. That's crazy.
And college football is back. San Jose State is 1-0. Woohoo.
I know. Yeah. See, we need to get Brad back to the Bay Area so we can go back to Spartan Stadium.
Swing down, catch a game, pay tribute to Lawrence Fan.
Absolutely.
Just, man.
Cool. Lawrence Fan didn't let me speak to the guy that I wanted to speak to for very long, though. But there's there's I'm not mad about that, obviously, now, because he passed away. He's a very nice guy, but he was doing his job. I was like, come on, more than 15 minutes for this interview that's going to be recorded and played on the radio station.
Yeah. So, well, we were kids. Just trying to break into the business. We want. And Lawrence knew his job. He was like, yeah, you're good.
Sweet. All right. So we're done here. We'll be back next Monday. We've been doing some shows on Tuesday. Everything, my schedule's sort of settled. So for Brad, I'm Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.
Peace.